There was a website I consulted this morning that a member had pointed me to a couple weeks back. Thank you, Alan. It is itchristmas.com. The answer is no. It's not Christmas. So I'm assuming at some point the answer will be different. But today it is still, the answer is no. As the readings bring us closer to Christmas, I want to take just a minute and talk about Christmas, because I realize in the church we talk about Jesus and Christmas, but we don't talk about Christmas a lot kind of as a holiday. And as a result, basically commercial culture then defines what this holiday is. And I want to take just a minute and say, it's our holiday, it's not yours. So there was an article this morning in the New York Times surveying clergy across the United States and how many of them were not going to have church next Sunday. Sunday, for crying out loud. It's like the day we have church, right? And it's Christmas, right? Put the Mass in Christmas, right? That is the focus of what we do. We have church on Easter and on Christmas, and then on, this year, 50 other Sundays, right? In addition to various things. We're still in the season of Advent. It is not yet Christmas. Christmas begins at sunset on Christmas Eve. As Christians, we kind of follow the Jewish understanding of the start of the day being when the sun sets the evening before. And it goes on, as we know the song says, for 12 days. So a couple of challenges for you if this has not been your routine. I dare you, come to church next Sunday. In the spirit of Christmas movies, I triple dog dare you to come next Sunday, 10 o'clock. It's one of my favorite services of the year. You have never seen such a large, relaxed group of people in your life because it's all over at that point, right? It's very, very different. The other thing, don't get rid of your Christmas tree. I know some of you knew that was coming, but I just want to say that out loud. Epiphany. 12 days of Christmas up to the 6th of January. Palo Alto, I know for sure, will still take your tree, so don't panic. But consider it that Christmas begins as the sun sets on Saturday and will carry on for several days. If you're confused as to when Christmas begins, again, isitchristmas.com will tell you right out of the gate, either no or yes. As we look at the text that we have for today, we are definitely getting into the Christmas shoot at this point. We're not in the overall apocalyptic kind of time frame. We're definitely starting to narrow in and a little less about Jesus' promised return and a little bit more about the impending arrival of a baby. Now, there's all kinds of preparation that goes into that, but I know in my own experience at least, there's a finite amount of reading that you can do until that first child comes, and then they kind of write the book from there. And you kind of are along for the ride as it goes. And I think that's a real challenge, because I think we have thought of ourselves as being fairly clever in having defined how Christmas is going to go. We have our plans set. We know who's going where or who's not going where. We have checklists that we're going through and all kinds of things like that. And I think in the midst of that, we lose a little bit of the wonder and the surprise that comes in this season. Even the sense of the basic parts of this story, that a young woman would bear a child, all of this would just be stunning and different. And we often, I think, due to the busyness of this time of year, just kind of nod and go, right, yes, as if that's just kind of the way it works. I think one of the core pieces of this season is to recognize that God came among us as one of us and the trajectory of human history was changed. Now, whether we understand all of the details the way Matthew did in the text that we have this morning, it's kind of hard to tell. First century in the Eastern Mediterranean, you really couldn't go back and check with Jesus' second grade teacher and ask how the parent-teacher conference went. That kind of just like historical drill down is not something that's going to happen. But this idea instead that God is at work among us in a way that is surprising and unexpected. Kind of like a phone jingle. It's catchy, though. There we go. Thank you. No worries, no worries. So when we think about Jesus coming among us as this interruption, and I think that's really what we need to think about moving through this week. We have more things to deal with this week than in most weeks. I know we have all kinds of things that we're getting prepared for. And one of the things when we start to feel kind of at the end of our rope trying to get everything done is we don't like the interruptions, right? We don't like things that derail us from what we're supposed to be about. We don't like things that are setting aside our list and causing us to focus on something else. But if there is anything about Christmas that we should remember, it is a profound interruption. A profound interruption. Now, when we think about this sense of interruption, it's something that we can't prepare for by definition, right? It just kind of comes. And I know sometimes we don't want that. So I think as we approach this next week, take those little interruptions in your day and all of the things that come through as perhaps a reminder of what God is doing among us, breaking into our lives in a way that we probably wouldn't choose, right? Jesus, I'd really rather you come on Christmas Eve than Christmas Day, because Christmas Day isn't as handy for me. Could you do it, on Thursday between 4:30 and 5? But I think one of the things that is a hallmark of this time of year is there's no interruption quite like being handed a baby, right? Do you notice how your scope of view gets very small immediately? I don't want to drop the baby. Is there somewhere I can sit? What does the baby need? I don't want it to cry when I'm holding it, right? Suddenly, the entire universe, all of your lists, all of your things, suddenly dissolve and disappear into this small thing in your arms. An interruption, right? Something that breaks in a way that doesn't allow focus outside. That is this week. As we gear up towards Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, we're reminded that we are being handed a child that we did not ask for, but that God knew we needed. Amen.